So, I messed up at the end, of course. The hardest part is changing, but I'm gonna get it. Even if it takes me all day. That's right, all day, okay? Three mistakes. Yep, mistakes again. A little bit better. Again. Hey everyone, it's Jared here, and today I have a really fun lesson for you. Now, a few months back, I asked everyone on my Facebook page, what are drum beats that everyone struggles with, regardless of how good you are, regardless of whether you're a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And I got almost 200 responses and some really great submissions. And so what I did is I went through there and I chose the most popular ones, as well as the ones that I feel like I really struggle with as well. And so I'm going to teach you them, but I'm also going to talk about what makes them really difficult and what makes them harder than another beat. And so one thing I'll say before I get into it is all of these grooves and any grooves that you learn that were played by another drummer, it's pretty much impossible for you to play it the exact same way. So if you're trying to play a John Mayer groove, or sorry, a Steve Jordan groove, who he was playing with John Mayer, or anyone else Steve Jordan is playing with, you're never gonna make it sound like Steve Jordan, okay? I'm never gonna make the first groove, which is 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, sound like Steve Gadd. I'm gonna be able to put the notes in the right places, and I'm gonna be able to make it sound hopefully close to how he played it, but it's never ever gonna sound Gadd level, okay? So let's take a look at this beat, and what I'd really like for this to be is more of a discussion, because I read all the comments and it's more of something where I like to hear about things that you're actually struggling with these beats. Whether you are struggling with these or not, maybe it's something else, but maybe you can leave me a comment below and we can chat about that. So the first thing I wanna discuss with this beat is on the ah of 1, it's a 2-bar beat. Also on the ah of 2 on the ah of 1 on the second bar, there's an open hi-hat, and it has this linear element to it. And the first time I played it, I started feeling off balance because I'm not used to lifting up my left foot all on its own. And that's something that was really challenging. And so you might want to start this more without the hi-hat at all, and then kind of add that in as you get comfortable with everything else. And so let me play it for you nice and slow at 60 beats per minute, and you can hear how it sounds. And so one thing to note in there is a few of the stickings. So I'm starting the groove with my bass drum, obviously, but then with my left hand on the hi-hat. So you kind of have this open feel throughout the whole entire beat. Another thing I'll mention is that on the 4 count, there's a few different types of stickings, and you can also kind of make up your own if you really want to kind of start using this beat as kind of a springboard to something else. But the first one is just a right, left, left. You're going to be tempted to go if you're used to doing 6-stroke rolls, so just make sure you just do 1 diddle in the right hand. And then on count 4, it's just a set of double strokes. And you really want to try and have a light touch with this beat, okay? So I'm not gonna go through it note for note. I think that's something you can do. I really wanna more talk about the feel. So when you see Steve Gadd playing this, he's not really muscling it out. He's playing with a nice, soft touch. Right? And so you want to try and get close to that as possible. If you're playing in a cover band and playing at weddings or whatever you're playing, corporate gigs, you want it to sound as similar to the original recording as possible. So really think about how he's hitting the drums, what toms he's playing, and try and make it sound as close as you can. So now I'm going to play it at the faster tempo, which I believe is 104, which Ross thinks that you will never be able to tell the difference. But I say, no, Ross, you can tell the difference, and we're going to do it at 104, not 105, like he suggested. Right?
That's right.
The next groove I want to talk about is one of my all-time favorites, and that is the Rosanna Shuffle, played by Jeff Porcaro. And there's some controversy, actually inside of Drumeo here as well. Back in the day, me and Dave were talking about this. We listened to basically a drums-only track of Rosanna, and we listened to the intro, and it's like, there's no ghost notes on the intro. Like, everyone plays it or says the Rosanna Shuffle is... Or when you listen to the intro and you listen to the drums only and you hear what Jeff is playing, this is more what you hear. Only later on, maybe he starts doing a little bit more of these ghost notes. Then when Jeff put out an instructional video of him actually teaching it, he taught it with all of those ghost notes in there, and that's kind of become, okay, that's what the Rosanna Shuffle is. So I'm going to be teaching you the one with the ghost notes, but I'm not going to be putting the bass drum on count 3 of the second bar. Okay, so we're going to be leaving that out. This is the version, you'll see it on screen right there, and there's a ghost note in between each triplet. So just practice the hands only without the accents on count 3. Then add in the accents. Then add in the bass drums. I'll play it for you at 60 beats per minute. So now I'll play it at the song tempo at 80 beats per minute. Now the hardest part about that groove is hitting the accent and having the grace note right afterwards. So you can really just practice that over and over again. You want the grace note after the accent to sound the same as all of the other ones. Okay, and that's really the challenging part of that groove. And no one does it like Jeff. This drum sound and the way he plays his hi-hats, like I know the feel that I'm playing my hi-hats is not even close to how he's playing his. It just sounds really completely different. And big credit to him for really kind of making that his own, because I know he learned that from guys like Bernard Purdie and other inspirations. So really cool groove. Now the next groove is a jam. Okay, it started as a jam by a guy named CLYDE Stubblefield, and he played it with James Brown. Now this became known as the funky drummer beat. It's one of the most sampled grooves in hip hop and R&B, and it's just such a beautiful sounding groove, and to play it at that actual tempo where they jammed on it at is like 100 beats per minute, and I'm gonna try that for you. I'm gonna show you what it looks like to crash and burn, but this is one that I still struggle with because it has some of those same elements that we were talking about in the Rosanna groove, but slightly reversed as the ghost note comes before the accent instead of after the accent. So what I'll do to start is I'm gonna play it for you nice and slow, and then we can talk about it. Okay, so that one is a really, really challenging one to play slow. I guess I should have practiced it slower before I tried to demonstrate it on camera here, but you can tell why there's a challenge in some of the parts. So the first thing is keeping the 16th notes going on the hi-hat while playing soft notes with the left hand as well as loud notes makes it really hard to keep this consistent. So we've always talked about dynamic limb independence, being able to play one limb at a certain volume and the other limb, it's got a mind of its own. And so the hand part here, playing the hi-hats nice and consistent, we're not really doing a lot of this, it's just even there, I did an accent with my left hand. That's something I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to keep that nice and consistent, almost like it's going by itself, and then everything else kind of fills in around that. But the hi-hat is really the cool ostinato here, and the snare drum and the bass drum can kind of comp around that. So this one it's like, to hit the feel, for me, it's almost impossible. I never really grew up playing a lot of funk, but these beats always really, really intrigue me, and I hope by learning it, it inspires me to do something else in a musical setting that I am more comfortable with, right? So I'll play it now faster for you. I'm gonna try it at the actual tempo of 100 beats per minute, and I'm likely going to crash and burn. Here we go. Okay, so I only did it once. I only got one for you because that really, really works out the right hand. And it's hard to stay loose when you're doing this sort of thing, especially when all the cameras are on me here. Now, the next groove I want to talk about is the Cissy Strut. And this is a really, really fun groove, and it's more about the feel than anything else. And as I listen to it, and I listen to a bunch of other people teach it, as well as other lessons on this on YouTube, and I listen to all the different drummers that are playing it, and everyone kind of has their own way of swinging it. So it's written as 16th notes, but really it's the 16th notes are different lengths apart. So it sounds really, really swung in some parts, and they straighten it out in certain sections, and a lot has to do, I think, with the band that you're playing it with. So I'd really encourage you to go listen to all the recordings of this, and listen to all the different drummers that are playing it. Now, this groove was made famous by a guy named Zigaboo, Modaliste. We're trying to figure out the exact way to say it. And years ago, when I was walking around at the NAMM show, I was just walking outside to my hotel. A guy stops me. He's like, "Hey, Jared, hey, my name's Zigaboo." I forget how he said the last name. But I'm just like, what? Zigaboo? And I ended up chatting with him for a few minutes. And I still got to we got to have him out here in Drumeo. This is one of the iconic grooves, and no one plays it like the master, Zigaboo. And so I'm going to attempt to play it. I'm going to first start at 60 beats per minute and just take a note of some of the hi-hat accents, okay? As well as the stickings that I'll be playing. You can play this many different ways, but the stickings that you choose to use are going to really change the feel. It's just like the funky drummer beat. I can choose to do 2 hands on the hi-hat, but that completely changes the feel of the groove. And I've worked with engineers before who weren't actually watching me drum, but they would say, okay, play it again, but just use 1 hand on the hi-hat because they like the way that the hi-hat sounds and the way the groove feels when it's played that way. And so it is important, if you want to try and nail this feel, to use the stickings there. For me, the hard part is getting the hi-hat accents perfect, and so I kind of flutter in between what's right and what's wrong and what I kind of naturally want to do. So you can try it out and figure out what works for you. So we'll start this at 60 beats per minute. So I'm trying to make it sound a little bit dirty, a little bit almost like pushy and pulley within the time. So I'll play it faster for you, which it actually sounds a lot better played faster. We're going to do it at 90 beats per minute. And the final groove I want to talk about is the one from Chaka Khan, the song Ain't Nobody. Now this one was originally played by John J.R. Robinson, and if you've ever seen J.R. play, you'll know why it's hard. He has a very unique setup. He plays only heels down with his right foot and his left foot, I believe, and his drums are all super angled. The way he plays the hi-hats, it's like French grip, and then this. So whatever he's doing to kind of get the sound and the feel is super unique, and it's really, really hard to replicate. I'm going to do my best, but really I'm just going to be hitting the notes in the right areas. I'm not going to be making it sound exactly like he did. So this one is kind of cool because I actually wrote 2 variations for you. We call it 5A and 5B. And the first one is more of the verse, and then the second one is the chorus. Because when we talk about beats that drummers struggle with, I think you'll struggle with both of these. Okay? And so let's start with 5A. I'm going to play this at 60 beats per minute, and listen for what is going on here. Okay, so when most drummers create beats, they'll create a beat that has some sort of ostinato, right? So if you're going to create a 16th note beat, the gaps in the groove more lie within the bass drum. That's where the syncopation happens in the bass drum and in the snare drum. They don't really happen in the hi-hat. And so it's really interesting how he just decided, I'm not going to play anything or hardly anything on count 3. So it was a really cool musical choice, and it's something that I know has inspired a lot of future drummers and drum beats and hip hop and R&B, and so many people don't even realize it, but these grooves are some of the grooves that laid the foundation for the music that you're listening to today. So I'll play it at the song tempo now at 105 beats per minute. And the final groove, 5B, is a variation of that. And this is where we keep the hi-hats going all the way through, but the biggest thing to note is the open hi-hats on the E of 4, the A of 4, and then it's gonna cause you to have 3 bass drums in a row at a quicker tempo, and it's really, really gonna frustrate you. So this lesson is probably gonna end with me being frustrated here, so I'll start playing it at 60 beats per minute. Oop, went down to 30, and show you how it sounds. Okay, so now I'm gonna play it faster for you. I actually really struggle with this at the actual song tempo of around 105. So I'm gonna play it for you at 90 beats per minute so I don't make a complete fool out of myself. Here we go. All right, so there are some grooves that all drummers struggle with. Man, that last groove kicked me in the arse, okay? I actually learned that one to do this lesson. I've never really played that song before or that groove, and I thought I had it, and then they turned the cameras on and started filming, and then I didn't have it. So I kind of butchered it there at the end, but you know, that's the whole purpose of this, right? These are definitely grooves that you struggle with. Whether you can play the notes in the right spots doesn't really mean you can play the groove. It's more about the feel, it's more about getting in that drummer's head, figuring out how they're playing, how they're hitting the drums, how the drums are tuned, and all these different variables, right? So it's up to you if you want to really get into these types of things and study this kind of stuff, because it can have such a massive effect on how you develop and where you go as your own style. And it can just teach you so much about where the music that we listen to came from. You know, especially that new music coming out today, a lot of those rhythms, a lot of those grooves were kind of spawned from a lot of these great drummers. And so I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It's always so much fun to film these for you, and I'll see you again very, very soon.